Were you poor, or did you know you were poor?
We were extremely poor, and when I look back, I realize that we were really on the basis sometimes of not even knowing where our next meal was going to come from. But since we didn't have anything to compare it with, we didn't really know that we were poor. That doesn't mean I ever went hungry. There was always something in our home to eat, but it was a wonderful spiritual feeding. And I think we eat far too much, and the measurements that we have for being wealthy are pretty weird. The songs we had, the laughter we had, the love we felt made me extremely rich. And I think, you know, a lot of people look upon that as being rather a naive statement, but you know that wealth can buy none of those things. It cannot buy health, it cannot buy joy, it cannot buy love. It can buy a lot of concrete things that makes life a little bit easier, but the things that really matter cannot be bought, and therefore we didn't miss. I look back in retrospect and I realize that I never had a bicycle. All my friends had bicycles. I never had skates. All my friends had skates. I didn't even own a coat. I used to have to wear my sister's coat to school, you know, which used to horrify me. But I lived without skates. I lived without bicycles. In fact, I found wonderful means of riding other people's bicycles and other people's skates, so they had the problems and I didn't. So in a way, I was very rich. We were monetarily poor, if that's the measure of your question, but we were spiritually very, very rich. And I feel that now. It wouldn't matter to me tomorrow if I lost everything. I would survive because I have the survival skills of looking for the good and looking for the joyful and the things that are truly, I think, essential for survival.
How about sickness at home? How did you cope with it?
We saw a good deal of sickness, but it was accepted. Nobody tried to deny that it was there, and in fact, I couldn't remember that anybody in my family had ever gone to a hospital. We'd gone to doctors and things, but there was also a sense of wellness, a sense of joy. I remember that more than senses of sickness. I remember one of the funny things I talked about recently in a television show was that every year my mother used to give us all a great purgation, and that was a big day for us because we were isolated, like Felice was going to be purgated that day. And we would take a solution that was a citrate of magnesia, you know, that would clean us out, because she always felt that you had to be clean inside as well as clean outside. We used to hate it. It was terrible. And on that day, of course, having a big family, everybody using the same bathroom, we had the preference of the bathroom because that had to be right within reach, you know. But we all, and then she said after you were purgated, then she would make a dinner that you loved, and so you could select whatever you wanted afterward, and of course you'd fill up again. But the wonderful thing was that she was always health-minded, but in a very sort of a folksy way, and yet here we are, you know, we all did pretty well. And of course the wonderful thing that she used to think that garlic clear, you know, we'd do anything, take care of the common cold, an ingrown toenail. You just put garlic around your neck and you were set. And you know, they're finding out, of course, now that there is some truth to that there is an enormous medicinal effect in garlic. But all of these wonderful things, the funny part about it, I have never been really asked that question before, so that's a delightful thing to respond to. I don't remember the illness in our home. I remember the wellness. It seemed to me that most of us were well most of the time and celebrating life. There wasn't time to be ill. And I do believe that the ambiance of a place can create illness. I think somber, unhappy places are places that breed ill health. But sunny, happy, laughing, song-filled places breed good health, mental, physical, and otherwise.
Did you ever have a fear of dying?
I don't know that I've ever feared it. It was a natural thing to me. We saw our relatives die. We were never kept from that. The children weren't pushed away. We were there. Mama, I remember explaining to me that this is not your aunt. This is just her body. The things that we'll remember about her are the wonderful things that she did with us, the things that she taught us, and so on. She lived a good life, that kind of a thing. So we were not fearful I remember going out when I finally was released from this environment and went out into what people call the real world and found out that my peers had never seen a dead person. And they were terrified, where I had had beautiful experiences with death, and therefore I wasn't. So I felt a tremendous advantage. I don't know that I often wondered, you know, whether or not I was talking a good show about not fearing life or death, because I was such an integral part of it, until I had my quintuple bypass and almost died 3 times. That was proof of the pudding that I was not afraid of death. I was in situations that were right at the door of death, and yet when I was there, there was a sense of peace and a sense of wonder and a sense of magic and a sense of feeling within myself that I had lived such a wonderful, exciting, beautiful life, that death, I'm sure, was just going to be another adventure.